Today we will talk about this one. Yeah, a laptop. For what? A boost this PC. Let's go! What's up guys, Anthony here, welcome to another video. So as you see in the introduction, this laptop is ready and in a necessity for an upgrade. And today's episode is the second boost this PC. Well, I know that I'm not using common brand actually for boosting PC, but it sounds fun somewhere. First time it was the IBM Aptiva, this time it was this Fujitsu Siemens. If you want to know the model, this is the Amilo notebook 3540. Wow, not a bad one. We'll get a look at the specs just after. And as you can see, there is some part of upgrade. And if you want to ask why a CMOS battery, because the one inside is simply dead. Now, with all that said, let's get a look. Not of the Windows Vista pre-install on the machine, but a look on the spec on the machine especially. Let's go. So the spec of the PC is quite interesting, especially because there is a 3D graphics card, a 3D dedicated one. Well, there is no Intel integrated one because it's a Core 2 Duo CPU, but when I want to say a dedicated one, it's an nVidia. Which model is it? Exactly the same on my Asus, I don't remember the model, but from the same year, 2008. 9300, if I remember correctly. Yep. No, it's not right then. 9300M. So, I know the graphics card, I know the performance, and I know what to do with it to have a good graphic quality when I will boost this PC. For the CPU, it's a Core 2 Duo, 2 GHz dual core, T7300 if I remember correctly. Unfortunately, I don't have any part of possible upgrade actually. I'm locked at this processor. But if I can get a T75-7600, well, it could be for sure a nice part of upgrade, but I will check that later. The most important part is to upgrade, the OS. It's not especially necessary, but just to be sure that everything is up to date. It's still better than the Vista pre-install, as you can see. So it will be upgraded to Windows 10 probably. This is the easiest even for me to install. The RAM, it has only 3 GB of RAM, so I've got the RAM here. Well, this is 2 stick of 2. One is a fast one, 800 MHz. This one is a 666 MHz. Depends of what I will find on the RAM speed pre-install, but we'll check. If it could be 800, for sure it's better, and especially if the chipset support it. For the hard disk drive, it's a 250 GB hard disk drive, so very common at this time. But the upgrade part, and because Windows 10 is the one I've selected for upgrade, I will go for an SSD. This is an Intel one, the SSD 335 series, 240 GB, so it's the same capacity but just faster. Now, just to say it, this is a serial ATA1 speed, so it won't be something crazy. It will boot faster for sure, but I want to say less slow. Maybe you will understand what I want to say. It's not as fast as a PC, just a bit more modern when you put an SSD. It will not be like that, it will be a bit slower. but still extremely faster than an hard disk drive. That's why I put an SSD, just to be sure it's not a critical long wait with Windows 10. And as I said, the CMOS battery, because you need a CMOS battery replacement. For the graphics card, there is no upgrade because on this one, it was sold on the motherboard. Yep, sorry, I can do something like this. But as I said, there is something specific that I know with this chip. That's time for the upgrade. I just turn off the computer, and it's fine. I have my reason to not show you the start menu to avoid the name of the previous owner. Fine. Alright, let's upgrade that. So far so good. I'm surprised because the 1 GB RAM, because I didn't say it, with 3 GB, there is of course one 2 GB and one GB of RAM, and the 1 GB was here, so it's extremely easy to upgrade. So that's a really cool thing. I want to clean all the computer, but it could be done, I want to say, after. The only part I will do it, and you can probably see it just in this video, is the thermal paste or thermal pad, I don't know. I think it's a thermal paste, at least on the CPU, but maybe not on the GPU. I will just clean that part, but otherwise I won't do something else, because it's all I need is accessible. The CMOS battery is also there, so it will be also easy to remove and to replace. Good point. Very good model so far for repairing, upgrading the PC. So yeah, it was clearly the time to clean that. It's completely dry. Yeah. Okay, it was time. Well, sorry for all the stuff, lots of work of course, sometimes it's like this. So well, computer is just rebuilt. First start for you, I've already started, already installed Windows 10, everything, yeah, no surprise. But first boot up for you. Because I've got something wrong with the CMOS battery, maybe it will give me again the error message, we will see. Yep, never mind. I've just changed it just before, but yeah, fine. So just let me put the clock back and we will check that just after. There is, of course, Windows update at the last boot. I forgot that. Several hours, but I forgot that. And as you can see, it's not installing that fast. That's what I've said before. It's just less slower. Just less slower. But seems fine just for daily usage, of course, but it's not as fast as newer computer, even if it's not with a Seriality A3. Even Seriality A2 is already clearly faster. But anyway, we will do it with that. And you will get that fast forward. Compared to me, it's in real time. Yep. And the SSD is in good condition. Of course, it's an occasion, not a new one, but it is in good condition. Just to say. Imagine if we have a hard disk drive. But anyway. I've got time to make this wonderful wallpaper for this Boost This PC. Tell me what do you think about it in the comment. And on this one I didn't install the last version because I didn't burn it on my USB drive. And that's why you can see the older version of Edge. But anyway. Still booting up. But normally with the SSD, yeah, it's more or less usable, so it's fine. Computers is ready, games on install on it. They were a game, of course, from this era, not really older and not really newer, so something between 2005, I will say, and 2012 maximum, really big maximum. Let's check how it performs. For sure, when I will upgrade the CPU, the graphics card is the major problem on this laptop. It's not designed for game, or not really, not with high resolution or high details. But upgrading the CPU can give me just a bit more FPS and it could be fine. When I got it, it would be better. But let's see for you with the main CPU how it works. So we are there later after a small check on the PC. Well, so what was the upgrades? So the SSD for faster system response, 4 gigs of RAMs. But as I told you, I can't upgrade the GPU because it was welded on the motherboard. But as I said, I have an idea to make anyway a boost of performance. What it could be. No idea? No? Of course, overclocking, because it's possible. I can probably hear you from far away. You are overclocking on a laptop, it's not a good idea, or you can't, it's impossible. No, it's totally possible, but I can agree with some people to say it's not the best idea ever. But this is a computer, it probably never have games on it, due to this previous owner. It was a woman from the age of 40 years old, but not especially born with the idea to play games in its life. It's not. It's just an opinion for me. I don't say anything about that. Everybody do whatever they want with their computer. So then she never played game. So this is the first time probably it will run games. So the graphics card probably never be so solicited. Then overclocking is not so bad idea in this case, and especially because I won't turn this computer on every day or play game every day on it, so it's fine. For the age of the computer, it's fine. It won't be the problem. To talk a little about the overclocking, this is the same graphics card on my laptop, my old laptop Asus, the nVidia 9300 MGS. What I know about this graphics card is that the GPU core is running at 580 MHz, can run an overclock of 30%, sure, and stable. On my old laptop, it's the case. It's probably the same chip, just the difference that it weld. So it probably get the same overclock. But now, just to say, I'm not a pro overclocker, but a chip is not another. So even if it's the same model, the same chipset, that's not a reason that you can overclock it at the same way. It's possible that 30% will be too much for this computer. We will see, we will check. Second part, the RAM, the VRAM, is not working at the same speed as mine. Mine was at a very low speed of 400 MHz, but perfectly overclockable 30%, 520. I didn't notice that when I got the computer. It was really late when I got my first gaming laptop. Here we are at 700 MHz. It's already better, but it will not be the same. I need to check that. But with that, this small 20 FPS on this particular screen is a bit few for Half-Life. It's the 2015 version if you want to ask. It's a bit few. Can I get at least 25 or maybe 30 with the overclock? That's the idea. If we can or be near this FPS, it's an improvement. I agree also that when I will got my CPU, it will get a huge step also, because this game, a faster CPU, even if it's not necessary, it will help, for sure. Let's try it. So I will try first only the GPU and see the difference. I can also have my GPU temperature, which I don't have this on my Asus. There is no sensor on it. Oh, it can read it at least. Here we can read it. Okay, it's overclock. Let's see the difference first. 5 FPS. Yeah, 5 to 6 FPS. It's not that bad. Now I need to watch also the GPU temperature, but it seems okay so far. I won't get artifacts while overclocking the GPU. It's really rare. In general, artifacts are linked to the VRAM, not the GPU itself. So far so good, a good point. At least the GPU can be overclocked to its maximum speed. Okay, then fine. It's maybe now for running a minute. Normally a real stress test using the CPU and the GPU, well the GPU in this case, at 100% is clearly better to have a stability certitude. Well, if it's not the case, I will reduce a bit, and I will tell you just after just after. So now the memory, I won't take 30% because it's probably too much, but I will try. We are at 700. I will try 800, step by step, just a minute. If I see artifact, it's not good. So it seems that the GPU is more effective in this situation. I just see a few frames, 27 FPS. So it's, you can say that's not an improvement in this case. Okay. Overclocking the VRAM will not be helpful. Only the GPU. Well, at least if we can get a bit of more FPS, we will take it for sure. The objective is to have the boost this PC. I really hope about a better result when I got my CPU. Hello everyone. We are 2 weeks later, and surprise, my CPU arrived. So it arrived way earlier than expected. So it's cool, and I was pretty happy about that. So I've also time to record that part before doing the record until I post the video. So let me show you the piece. Ah. So the vendor says that it was, the seller, sorry, says that it was new. And when I see the die, I want to say that is true. Judge by yourself. Cuckoo. It's a perfect mirror. Wow. So this is a T9800. What I've checked, thanks Focus. What I've checked before buying this processor is to be sure that it was compatible with this machine. I've checked on several websites to be sure because it wasn't specified properly to say yes, this one is compatible. So after a few search, I'm saying yes. Hope it's the case. If it works, perfect. This PC is fully upgraded as I want. Otherwise, it will stay with the main CPU at the moment. Let's install it.
Then I simply boot the computer to be sure that the CPU is perfectly detected, and surprise, surprise, the answer is yes, as you can see. Now it's time to test some games. First we will begin with the main CPU, the 2 GHz. We start with Half-Life 2 at 800p, which is a very good average of 99.7 FPS, a 1% low of 40.7 and 0.1% at 10.8, which is still very good. We are playing here at the middle settings, but as you probably can see, FPS are not quite stable. Sometimes we are below 30 FPS and sometimes above 100, 120, but wow. Overall, this is a perfectly playable experience on this game. Very, very nice. Let's get a look to another game now. Quake 4. We're getting a bit back to 2005 with this game. In 1040 by 768, it runs with an average of 56.6 FPS, which is really nice and perfectly playable in high preset quality, which is really, really good. Next game is Enemy Territory Quake Wars, the next game from ID Software on the Quake series, also in 800p. We've got a good average on this one because the engine is in general to get a stable 30 FPS. The average here is at 35.3, which is perfectly good. Also have result in 1% and 0.1, really excellent in this case. Playing in normal preset. The next game is Stalker Shadow of Chernobyl in 24 by 768 resolution, an average of 96 FPS. This is not the best and stable average ever made, but with static lighting, not dynamic lighting, because the 9300 MGS is clearly not good for that. With the static lighting, we can have a very perfect experience of gameplay. This is a game from 2006. And the game is running just fine. All the presets, without talking about the lightning system, is set to the maximum. Yes, you understand, maximum. So I've got max texture, max grass density, and max distance vision without any issue. This is probably one of my favorite games, so it's probably the best thing to have on this computer. And the last game tested with the main CPU, because I don't retest it all the game previously said, with the new CPU. It's Wolfenstein, the 2009 edition, also in 800p, and I've got an average of 29.7 FPS, so almost the 30, which is a playable experience in this case. Of course, with that said, games with a reduced resolution could have clearly better average FPS and then a better gameplay experience, but of course it will be a bit more powerful. So that's it for video games that I didn't retest it with the new CPU. But talking about the new CPU, let's make a small comparison. So the difference, first of all, the speed, 2.93 GHz for the T9800 compared to 2 GHz, the double of megabyte cache, a bit more consumption of 35 watts compared to 25, and it was 1 trimester newer. And then the first game I've tried is Duke Nukem Forever in 800p again. The average is surprisingly lower with the new CPU than the older CPU, because I've got an average of 21.1, but as my surprise, we will get a small discussion about that. With the main CPU, I've got an average of 24.9 compared to 21.1, but just get a look at these two videos side by side. Difference are few, but here in the elevator, you can see that with the new processor at the beginning it was a better FPS, and here, just here, we have a bit of lag. Yeah, you can see it. What's the shit? Because I don't understand in this situation. But anyway, the next game I've tested is The Sims 4, which is a modern game in 800p because FPS is not that important. But with that said, in an average of 47.2 FPS, sorry, that's a good average between low and medium settings. And of course, we cannot leave you without testing Crysis. Does it run Crysis? Well, if you're not afraid by big pixels in 800 by 600 resolution, yes, it can, with an average of 35 FPS. For a game that's so good, it's fine. And that's it for games. We get the specs here, we can just read it, the final spec. This is a very good overall boost this PC. Hope you like the video, guys. We'll catch you on the next one. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and I will catch you on the next one. Goodbye, everyone.